Good afternoon to everyone or good evening to everyone. So this is a continuation topic of our subject, the contemporary world. So the module entitled the Global Interstate System. So I am your Professor Erico. So presently connected at the Caraga State University as Associate Professor 5. So I have my cell number, so posted in my PowerPoint and my email ad, so posted again. So the global interstate system, we are guided with the following outcomes. First, explain the effects of globalization on government. Categorize the institutions that govern international relations, and then differentiate internationalism from globalization. So meaning the first learning outcome, so explain the effect. So what is now the effect of globalization on government side? And also we will categorize the institution that govern international relations as well as the differentiate internationalism from globalization. So we discuss if that is an difference between internationalism from globalization. So according to these scholars, so Parodi and Omi claim that globalization has supplemented the states and it has not. So meaning according to him that the globalization is supplemented by the state. So meaning states is refers to the country by country. So the states are accountable to a host of international norms and standards, find themselves in subordinate positions to protect their economy and face a new kind of pressures of supranational integration and focus of local fragmentation, according to Shuttle 2014. So, meaning, whatever decision by the people, it should be the country is accountable. Like for example, in the Philippines, the president is accountable regarding the situation of the Philippines. So, meaning, the role of the president is to protect the people and the property inside the territory of the country. So next, the effects of globalization on government. So what is now the effect? So seen as imposing a forced choice upon states, either they conform to the neoliberal ideas, free market principles of the regulation, privatization, and free trade, or run the risk of being left behind. So meaning the effects of globalization, so look at the term, the deregulation, privatization, and free trade. So regarding the regulation, look at the Philippines today. The oil price, the oil industry is deregulated by the government. Before the time of President Ramos, the time of President Cory, and the President Marcos, the oil industry is controlled by government. So in terms of prices, how much per liter. But the time of uh, former President Ramos, he gives an idea about the deregulation. So meaning, he gives the opportunity to the industry to compete each other. So many according to him, based on his analysis, when the company competing each other, the prices will go down. But the actual scenario of the oil industry in the Philippines, instead of going down the prices will go high. So meaning it will become a problem of the Pulas Filipino people. Regarding the privatization, the government corporation is given to the private to manage. Like for example, before the Philippine National Bank is owned by government. So that's a government bank. But when the time of Cory Aquino, when the late Cory Aquino signed into law that the government offered about the privatization program, the Philippine National Bank was ceded to a private individual in the Philippines. Let me example the other Philippine Airlines. The Philippine Airlines before was as owned by Philippine government. But when the government now offered for the privatization, 51% of the capitalization was given to managed by the Lusyatan. Now, the Philippine Airlines today is competing with other international uh, company flying with other countries. And free trade or run the risk of being left behind. So, meaning free trade. So, meaning according to the time of Kudas President Noynoy. So, there was a law by 2000, starting 2014 up to present, his time in 2019. I think that is 2019. The countries members by the an association countries, including the Philippines, having a free trade. Not totally free trade, zero tax, but nearly to zero. So meaning nearly to zero, the tax is very minimal. Like for example, the Malaysian company. The Malaysian company is traded their product to the Philippines like Copico. So meaning the tax is very low. So the purpose of giving the free trade, so the president is giving a chance to every individual to run the business because the some of the problem in the business, especially for import and export, is about the tariff. So many tariff if is very low. That's why it encouraging the business people to manage business. Next is establishment of economic and political integrations. Next is the growth of international law and universal principles. So meaning international law and universal principles. So that's why the Philippines now is respecting the international law. So whatever problems for the international problem, so meaning they are called as makes a complaint to the international court. Like example, the problems of owning the islets by between China and the Philippines. So meaning, according to the international court, the Philippines won the case. But the actual scenario, the Chinese is having the construction and the islet. So next, the rise of transnational activism. So the rise of transnational. So meaning transnational. So meaning people living with other countries is giving a chance. So meaning could ask full support and full could ask support for the activity of the other countries. Next, creation a new communication network. Like for example, the Philippines today, according to the President Duterte, the the communication, like for example, smart and low, our internet is very low in terms of quality of services. So that's why the President Duterte inviting the Chinese to construct the communication network in the Philippines. Like for example, the D2 now is starting for the creation of their tower. So the purpose of that is to give the Filipino people access to the communication and very fast situation. Next is the IGO. So meaning IGO, the intergovernmental organization, IGO, were established. So their aim is to bind nation states and to create strong economic, political, cultural, educational, and technical relationship. So meaning bind nation states and to create strong economic, political, cultural, educational, and technical relationships. So look at the Philippines now is not left behind to other countries in terms of education. There's a lot of foreigner enrolling in the Philippines because Philippines is not left behind in terms of quality of education. So, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, European Union, and World Trade Organization to mention few. So, meaning there's a lot, but only three is mentioning. So, look at the internationalism and globalism. Internationalism, that is intensification of relations among the nation states. But globalism, an attitude that seeks to understand all the interconnections of modern world and to highlight the patterns that underlie them. So the other one, it is the theory and practice of transnational cooperation. But look at the global. It pursues to describe and explain more than a world that is characterized by network of connection. So look at the differentiate. So meaning the first, we're going to track the first statement. Intensification of relations among the nation state. So that is internationalism. So meaning we will give a good relation to other countries. So according to our president, it is better to have more friends rather than enemy to other countries. Because having a more friends can help with us when we have a problem. But look at the globalization, an attitude that seeks to understand all the interconnections of modern world and highlights the pattern that underlie them. So meaning the attitudes of people inside the country and the attitude of government officials in the country. So it depends on the attitude between the officials and the individual person. So it is a theory and practice of transnational cooperation. That is a practice, but it pursues to describe and explain more than the word that is characterized by network of connections. Okay, once again, good day, or good evening, or good morning. So that's the end of next module.